Welcome to the Sports Entrepreneur Show powered by the Ninja Zone, the only podcast for sports entrepreneurs that gives you an inside look into what it takes to turn your passion for sports into a business. Hey there, sports entrepreneurs. Casey here, and in this week's episode, I talk about why it is a must to have a strategy when you're setting goals for the new year. It is that time. It is the real deal. It's time to start thinking about, what do I want my life to look like in 2020? What do I want my business to look like in 2020? And if you don't have a strategy, you're sunk. So in this week's episode, we talk about creating a map that works for us to make sure that 2020 is better than 2019. It guarantees it. Enjoy. Hey, sports entrepreneurs, we are back for one of my favorite times of year. It is time to goal set, or how I like to say it now, growth set, right? Growth over goals. Let's make sure that 2020 is better than 2019. Let's guarantee it. I have a system that I continue to optimize over the years. I didn't used to set goals at all. It's kind of like jumping in the car and, well, this actually happened the other day. I get in the car, I leave my house, and I go to type the address in the GPS where I'm going. I've never been there before, and realize that one of my lovely employees has used up all the data, and it dropped me down to 3G speed and my Waze wouldn't work. So it literally ended up that I kind of knew where I wanted to go, but I didn't know exactly where I wanted to go. So I ended up taking a lot of detours, and it took me way longer to get there than I wanted to. And quite frankly, there was a good chance that I could have never made it there at all. So similar analogy when it comes to goal setting or growth setting or outcome setting, however you want to look at it, when you move into the next year. So I love to do this at the end of the year just because it's the right time. And more than anything, I like to do it because there is an energy break between Christmas and New Year's. There's just that week. It's kind of like this dead week, and it's been like that in my life for some time. It's not for everyone, but it really allows me time to really reflect on what the last year looked like thoroughly. And since I have made it a priority to use that week for planning, it's just made an incredible difference in my life. And really, it's now starting to become like the whole month of December. So anyway, let's get down to it. So I have a system that I've used for a while, and I have stolen pieces of the system or been inspired by other systems to create this system. But this has been what works for me. And each year I look and say, how can I make this system better? So we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of personal development and books and courses. And I've done way more than 4 years of college in this topic for sure. And I love that I get to share it with you. So I'm going to kind of give you guys an overview of the system that I used and why. And then I want you to hang on tight, because at the end of this podcast, I've got a little surprise. All right, so let's get started. There's 3 main components of creating a year that's guaranteed to be better than the last. And those 3 components are reflect, create, and schedule. Let's talk about reflection and why it's so important. If you don't know where you've been and what you've done, how can you decide where you're going to go? There's so many reasons to reflect. Let's just talk about memory, right? And I look back over and say, oh my gosh, I forgot about that. And did that feel good? Did I like that? I'm going to reflect and say, would I want to do that again? Is that something I want to continue doing for a long time? I want to reflect on the wins that I've had, and wow, that felt really good. Why? What made that be something that I enjoy? So in this particular scenario, I use a handful of tools. I use my calendar, I use my journals, I use my planners. I'm not as organized as I want to be. So I typically have notes in a lot of places, but I've at least gotten to the point in my life where I know where all those places are. There may be 4 or 5 of them, but my notes, I know where all my notes are. And so reflecting is a huge, huge component of planning for the future, because you got to remember where you're at and what really happened, like what was reality. The second component is to create. That's where you get to be the artist of your life. It seems so second nature to me now, but when someone, I think it was a Tony Robbins quote, I think he said something about I created this MFer, like I created who I am. And it just hit me like, oh yeah, like you can create who you want to be. It's not like you were just dropped on this earth and you can't change. Definite difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. If you believe you can create who you want to be, it's time to get out the drawing board, right? And so what I do is I separate my life into sections. I do the same thing with the business, separate the business into sections. And then the fun part comes in. That's where you paint the pictures of what you want it to look like. You say, okay, what does a 10 look like? If I were going to take this part of my life, whether it be as a parent or as a business owner, as a leader, as a coach, as a whatever it may be, would I give it a 10? Would I give it what does a 10 look like? What do I even know is out there? And this is the fun part, because as long as you identify what a 10 is, you don't have to set your goals at a 10. You can set your goals at a 6, right? If I say, man, I'd love a 6-pack, like a 6-pack is a 10 to me in health. Maybe I'm just shooting for like a 7.5. Like it doesn't matter. But the point is you get to literally daydream on what is the best of the best. What is the best family scenario? If you didn't hold yourself accountable to it, what would it be? And so the portion of the goal setting is the creation portion. And I do that for every piece of my life. And I do this throughout the year, but I really try to spend the most time with it at the end of the year. And it's just, you guys, it's working. Like I wouldn't be sharing this with you if I didn't see my life on an upward trend. And it's not always every part of my life, but generally. So just taking the step to create that vision of where you would like to be, or the vision of something that you may not even believe is possible, is really, really effective. So that's the creation portion. And then the third portion, and where the rubber really meets the road, is the scheduling. So that's basically part 3. And by the way, there are several steps and several processes within reflect and create and schedule. But just to give you an overview, the third is to schedule. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where things get done. You actually get out your calendar and you schedule your priorities. If you don't take control of your calendar, someone else will. You will never, I mean, come on, we're at the point in our lives where you never have a day where there's nothing to do, because if there's nothing to do, somebody's going to ask you to do something, or you're going to be at the mercy of someone else. So this is the part where I not only schedule my priorities, but it sets the tone for putting iron bars and electric fences and little ninjas all around my calendar, right? So that I make sure I'm living the life that I want to live. And guess what? When I'm doing that, I'm so much better for everyone else. The amount of creativity that I can share by when my team, and they are so good about giving me space, I come back with great ideas and I come back with great strategy. I'm much smarter than if I was in trying to help and fix and tweak every little problem. Same thing with my kids, with my family. I put boundaries around my calendar. And again, year after year, it gets a little more optimized, because the more you reflect and the more you realize what worked and what didn't, the more you can be proactive and truly schedule, you manage your energy versus your time. And that's when life gets really cool. So the big three: reflect, create, and schedule. A few years ago, I started using a planner, and I've mentioned it before. It's Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner. And the whole intention of the planner is to take your annual goals that you set for yourself and break them down by quarter, month, week, and literally day. And this process, I am not going to lie, it takes a lot of discipline to and in really creating the habits to use it as it's supposed to be used. But holy cow, does it work? I think sometimes people feel so confined by planners. Like, I know for me, like one of my biggest reasons to live is freedom, to create freedom in my life, to do what I want to do in any moment, right? And so sometimes a planner can feel very constrained. But for me, it's simply a guardrail. It's not just because something's in my planner doesn't mean I have to do it. I'm a big girl. I can change the plan. I can change the game. I can do something else. But if it's in there and I get a little off center, I always have a place to go back to. It's a guardrail. I don't end up in a ditch if I've told myself where to go. And this is a way to not only tell yourself where to go annually, but quarterly, monthly, weekly, and literally daily. And this has become a process that I will never, this is a never not for me. I have a few never nots in my life: exercise, meditation, and my planner. And really all my planner is living on purpose. It's living with intention. Doesn't have to be about business. It doesn't have to be about work. It's just living intentionally. So I'm not some mindless sheep swept up by the media of the world or the patterns that so many people in society fall to. When you don't live on purpose, you end up getting swept in a wave and you look around and, oh my gosh, you're a mile down the beach, right? And that's what I want to avoid, because I want to have control and freedom in my life. So here is the exciting news that I told you guys to stick around for. I'm making this a course, a full-blown course, which, like I said, thousands of hours and literally hundreds of thousands of dollars I've spent over the last 5 years in personal development. And I am making a course to plan your year or quarter or whatever it may be. I don't even know what the thing is going to be called yet. I'm not sure. But I know that I'm making a course, and I know that if you're listening, I would love for you to be part of that. And it'll be released at some point between that week of Christmas and New Year's 2019. So what I'm thinking that I'm going to do is I will probably have a couple of live webinars where back and forth question and answer about the course. But I will put my processes in the course. Last year, I tried it out. I did a webinar. It worked out great. But I think that I think some of the reflection really takes a little more time and really should be done at somebody's own pace, right? Like not on a timer on a webinar, which is how I had it last year. So I think we are going to put it in course format. And anyway, I'm excited to share. So if you guys are interested in that, shoot us an email. And man, I'm pumped. I'm pumped for 2020. I hope you are too. Talk soon, guys. Bye-bye.
Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for listening to The Sports Entrepreneur, powered by Ninja Zone. Read the show notes, download bonus content, sign up to get the latest updates and more by visiting thesportsentrepreneur.com. And we'd love it if you followed us on Facebook and rated us on iTunes. Do you have a topic or guest idea? Email us at podcast@theninjazone.com. See you next week for more insights, tactics, and tools